Okay, let's call to order the February 15th meeting of the Fire District Board. Could you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Can we have the roll call, please, Chris?
Yes, ma'am. Aldrich,
Here.
Beckman,
Here.
Fox. You gotta unmute yourself, Dan, but I can see you.
Here.
There we go. Thank you. Jane.
Here.
Mike. Phelps. Not seeing Scott. Sharu Pullen
Here.
and Aaron Miller will be absent. So still have a quorum, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, sorry. Would you please silence your phones and please do not text during the meeting. That's against the Open Meetings Act. Could we have an approval of the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
This is Aldrich. I'll support.
Okay, I have
Madam Chair, can we add, I'm sorry, I missed putting on, it was supposed to be a COVID-19 update under Chief's comments. So do you guys mind if you amend that motion to add COVID-19 under 9, or I'm sorry,
No.
yeah, 9F?
Okay, we'll make that amended for Chris.
Is there anybody else want to add anything to the agenda? Okay. So could we have a roll call vote to approve the agenda, please, with changes?
Sure, you got it. Pullen,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
and Verplank.
Yes.
And no Phelps or Miller yet, so 5-0, man.
All right, thank you.
Passes.
Could we have approval of the minutes of the January 18th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 18, 2021.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Beckman and a second by Pullen. Is there any discussion? Hearing
Jane,
none. Go ahead, Greg.
may I speak, Jane? Thank you.
Mhm.
Just to clarify something on page 4 of the packet. The last sentence, Saugatuck Public Schools has signed an MOU, not and an MOU inclusive, it's just a MOU. So just drop the D.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, could we have a roll call, please, Chris?
Yes, ma'am. Beckman,
Yes.
Pullen,
Yes,
Fox. Phelps is still absent. Aldrich
Yes.
and Verplank.
Yes.
Passes 5-0, ma'am.
Okay. We have a request for payment. I'll take a motion.
Public comment first, madam.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Okay, is there anybody that would like to comment on anything? Or is there anybody that wants to comment on agenda items only? You may speak for 3 minutes. Please keep your comments respectful. Use the raise hand button to participate or enter *9 if you are calling from a phone. Anybody?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Ryan Heiss.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Oh, good. I just wanted to let you know I was joining the meeting, and hello to your fellow board members and the other public servants on the call. Just going to be listening in.
Thank you, Ryan. Ryan's our new city manager in Saugatuck. Good to see you on the meeting.
Welcome, Ryan.
Yep, welcome. This is the board, well, some of it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Bill Fry too.
Yeah, Joe's here too. We got two.
Oh, and we have
New
Joe
one.
Fry here too, who is
Hello.
new.
Sorry, my dog decided to bark. Hi, Mom. How are you all?
Hi, Joe.
All right. Is there any other, is that all you wanted to say, Ryan? Hello?
Yeah, that's it. Just listening in and get a
Okay.
sense of what you all do today, hopefully.
Okay, and how about you, Joe? Anything from you? Okay, anybody else?
Nothing for me. Just want to say hello.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, could we have a request for payment, please?
I'll make a motion to pay the payables in the amount of 141,871.06.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Beckman and a second by Pullen to pay the bills. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, could we have a roll call vote, please, Chris, to pay the bills?
Yes, ma'am. Beckman,
Yes,
Pullen,
Yes,
Phelps is still absent. Aldrich,
Yes.
Fox,
yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
and Miller is still absent. Passes 5-0, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving on to the financial report. Peter,
Okay. Okay, the financial report. Here we go. I just want to let you know that payment on the bills for $42,000 to TCF, which was the former chemical bank, which will be the former TCF that'll be Huntington here by 4th of July. That's the last payment. So the KME
yes.
International 2011 is paid in full when the bank opens.
Yay.
yay.
that's good. Glad to hear that.
So the property taxes are coming in surely. Yesterday was the due date for everything, and we've collected roughly 60% of the revenue that we've projected to collect so far. And I'm sure we'll be getting some large checks from the 3 entities here in the next week or 10 days once they get everything recorded and into the bank and get a check cut back to the department. You can see the expenditures. The one that's over budget, the professional services, I talked to Greg about that. That $8,000 really is the bill that should have been for capital improvements. It was for the underground inspections that was done at not the dinghy dock, the fireboat dock. It was built by the law firm, and I thought it was just professional services. It should have been towards capital improvement. So that account is still, we'll have to make a budget adjustment for professional services.
Okay.
And then we'll need to make another adjustment in the date with the boat maintenance, and also another one for technology. But I think overall we're in decent shape. You know, we're probably close to about 70% through the fiscal year, and we're at 64% of the appropriated expenditures for payment. I think everything, I don't know if anybody has any particular line item questions. We're just gonna have to make an adjustment, a budget adjustment, probably either in March or the April board meeting. So I don't know, does anybody have any concerns or questions at this time?
Madam Chair, Greg,
Yes. Go ahead, Greg.
just want to also share with the board in the professional fee line item. There are numerous professional fees in there for engineering fees that are assigned to various projects. Typically when we hire an engineering firm for a specific plan review, those fees are passed on to that individual project developer. So there are some fees in there that are assigned that when we get reimbursed, they'll go back into the general fund. So just Not a big deal. I just wanted to share that information with the board.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank you, Peter. Moving on to fire chief comments. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Jane. I will have Chris pull up the incidents. We've got the best, arguably the best IT director, in my opinion, in the state of Michigan, Eric Kirchert. You're going to see the value in data. I'll share that with you in a few moments. Looking at the data so far, the month of January was a record month, and by 5 calls. So, you know, COVID has some impacts, but we were down 13% in 2020. We're already starting a trend to escalate, to surge back into the normal call routine. Next slide, please. So it just shows the highest activity for January was certainly 2021 with an average call volume of 57. Just kind of interesting to see trends, which helps us with allocation and resource management. So what does that mean for those that have to report to their respective jurisdictions? We're up just under 14%. And that's what you want to communicate. My suggestion to your jurisdictions. Calls have climbed, and that's as of February 15th. I can share this with you. We've had one of the most horrific weeks we've ever had in my 21 years with the fire department. We've had some very tough calls. The nature, the severity of the calls, I can't even discuss. This has been a very, very difficult 10 days, and we are still watching staff from the ramifications of those calls. So this is a tough time, particularly when we have all these other demands placed on us. Subpoenas, you know, arguments about water supplies and differences. It makes it tough for us because we have to drop what we're doing, respond to this, and then get back into the swing of things administratively. And some of these calls are hours, if not most of the day. So it makes it very challenging from an administrative perspective on how do you manage the mental and behavior health of your staff with the severity of these calls. Just want to let you know. Typically during the summer, just back one slide, Chris, if you could, I want to point out, typically our biggest day is Friday. You can see that's gone the other way. So this is a fluid document. You know, that's when our tourists would come in on Friday. So a lot of activity. Time of the days is no surprise during the day. That's why we're staffed more heavily during the day. Response times have become slower. Obvious reasons. The road conditions are not dry. So priority 1s and 2s, about 45 calls for January. Typical infers reporting as far as the amount of EMS calls is running about 71%, a little higher than normal. Everything else pretty much follows suit. We had a number of fires there that kicked in, mutual aid, and in our area, so that value is up. Next, motor vehicle incidents. This is what we have when we have conditions outside. We're experiencing salt that doesn't work and road conditions, a lot of snow. So those incidents are before you. And here's what I wanted to share with the board. Over the weekend, Eric Kirchert reached out to me and said, we've got 7 motor vehicle incidents in 7 days. We track all this, brings it to my attention. I'm working in COVID clinic. I take a break, I read the email, and it's all in the same spot. Mile marker 41, southbound to 38 southbound.
Hmm.
That's a clear indicator something is wrong. What can we do? This is community risk reduction. This is the team that I have. So he prepares a media release. We reach out to the local paper, get great feedback from him. We all discuss what's the reason. Monday morning, I reach out to MDOT. I reach out to one of my captains. I reach out to Eric. We know the topography, the wind, the road conditions are such that we're going to have this area that's problematic. Why southbound and why not northbound? So here's what was revealed. The road surface is an older surface on southbound, scheduled to be replaced this summer, right in that area that's problematic. So I reach out to MDOT, our partners on the highway. We work very well together, and ask them if they've got a plan in place, what could be done about additional service on that area. So MDOT went from 2 sections to 3 sections with additional coverage on service, snow removal and salting on M40 or on mile marker 41 to 38. So we'll have additional salting crews and road clearing crews, all because of the data that Eric does. So I think that's important. Again, this is community risk reduction. This is what this department is good at, including its chief. And I just want you to know that we take this very seriously, and resource allocation is what it's about. What can we do to mitigate this stuff? And this is what we did.
Greg?
Yep.
Greg?
Go
Is
ahead,
that-
Dan.
Greg,
Yes,
is that all right, Jane?
Let's go ahead, Dan.
Is that primarily the area and the change of road surface coming off the bridge?
so it's, Dan, it's right, Old Allegan overpass. It's right there. The Schultz Park, the Kalamazoo River Bridge is a problem because the bridge is at one level and the roadway sunk.
Uh-huh.
But our call volume is north of that. We have our share of calls right there, and our time is coming. That will be corrected this summer. The whole roadway sunk. So when they come down the hill going across the Kalamazoo River, the semis ramp up the speed. They hit that bridge that's a different level, and the trailers bounce and they start swerving, and we have RVs, campers, trailers that lose control. A very common area to have a problem. That was revealed 2 years ago. But this is something we haven't experienced with 17 incidents, 7 of them right in the same area. So we knew there was a problem that we had not identified yet.
There was one out there Saturday night, correct?
And it's the road surface, the condition of the road surface. Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy?
I was just wondering, I've seen just personally a lot of spin outs by the rest area coming southbound there. Is that another area that's problematic or?
That area would be Grasscups, yes, just north of 41.
Right,
There's so many accidents there that we overlap our coverage areas.
mhm,
We both respond to those areas. To give an example, I had 2 accidents at one time with 3 vehicles involved, and I had to engage 2 other fire departments besides Saugatuck to manage traffic control. Likewise, north of us, up to the split, Grasscups got their hands filled with that area, particularly at the split. And that vicinity by, by the rest areas is problematic, Stacy.
okay.
Next, Chris, please. Next one, please. Okay, next, please. This is an important one for the board and the new members that are watching, new city managers. Overlapping incidents is something that you must track. We're running about 28%. What does that mean? It means 28% of the time we have calls that happen at the same time as another call. So where do you go first? Who do you send where, what, and when? This is a tremendous resource demand and staffing demand. And this just shows you what we have as far as the volume of calls that occur within 1 hour. And that's a classification of an overlapping incident. Calls that happen with one hour of another. And we've never missed a call, and we don't intend to miss a call. We're able to staff everything, and that speaks volumes of the board and their fiscal management and resource allocation. Special events, very minor. We had one. Next, please. Very little hours. Incidents, self-explanatory. If you have questions on this, feel free to reach out to me now or later. By far, the township encompasses our call volume because it's a larger area. Next, just shows the key numbers for budget and how it relates to the population and area. Kind of interesting for people that are new to this. And our next slide, Chris, personnel response. Okay, next one, please.
Somewhere to see that one.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, True.
That's okay. I just wanted to look at a couple of things on it. Okay, thank you. Just kind of overall.
Sorry about that. We have protected property value, which is of interest to the board. We had a couple of hazardous conditions where there are no fires. Typically, they're gas leaks. And you have some things where you have potential for explosion. This just shows some areas and some property values that I think, as Dan pointed out one time, are somewhat modest. We don't like to overinflate anything, so we try to be conservative. So these are the figures we just wanted to share with the fire board. And if there are no questions, we can move on.
So are there any questions about stats? I don't see anybody. Chris, do you see anybody? Okay, moving on to community risk reduction.
Yes, I'll share with the board. Unfortunately, we've had 10 fatal fires so far this year. Something we hate to see on any reporting level of the fatal fires that we have. So next up on the agenda is what was important to share with the board is we have a very progressive recruitment and retainment policy that Mike Betts and myself administer. How do we attract personnel? Can we attract qualified personnel? How do we get qualified personnel to service our area when they live in Layton? So I can share with the board that we have a number of people we hired that work in other departments with that chief's approval. We have people that are already certified firefighters. They're already certified medical first responders or EMTs. We have personnel that are not only firefighters and EMTs, they are certified fire officer 1, 2, and 3 level. Why would you want to know that? Cash flow. Certified firefighters over $1,000 to train. Medical first responders, $1,000 fee for the class. EMT is $2,000. An officer, EMT, firefighter is about $5,000. So what you have up there, the new hirees that we have, represent about $16,000. Great for the taxpayer, great for everybody. Where I'm going with this is there are 5 of them up there that stay at the station. We could not have done that if the board didn't invest in a sleeping room and accommodations for these people to stay there. They come to the station, they're on shift from 4:30 in the afternoon until 6 in the morning. So the investment in the facility pays off because you attracted some pretty competent, skilled, qualified people. And you're looking at just a sample listing. There's others we hired months ago. These are just recent. I think it's important the board know that.
How many do we have on 4:30 to next morning shift?
A typical average shift crew is 4.
Okay.
Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 5. It depends if they're in a development program. We
Okay,
have probationary people that will have a 5th person on. Average is 4.
okay, thank you.
Okay, next up, in true fashion of Lake Vista, they donated a pallet of bottled water for not only the fire department, Douglas Police Department, Elgin County Sheriff's Office, and Michigan State Police. They tried to give us 2 skids. We didn't have room for 2 skids. So they never won any recognition. I want the board to know what they did, and it's another case of bottled water. We haven't purchased bottled water for probably 5 years.
Perfect. That's nice.
Next on, yeah, very nice. Next
to
on the
hear.
fire board agenda would be grants. As you know, Friday and Saturdays, I've been very busy, signed up with the vaccination plan. So my other crew members for the grant team are Chris Bernhardy and Chris Mantles, and they were able to get out 2 grants. The FEMA grant was a big deal. We were almost going to waste that one-time, once-a-year opportunity because we've been dealing with subpoenas and relative things of that nature. They had 1 hour and 50 minutes to spare that they were able to get this in Friday. And I'm very proud that they were able to submit this grant. Doesn't mean we get the grant, but at least it's been filed, all the work's been done, and they were down to the wire on this. So my hat is tipped to Chris Mantles and Chris Bernhardy for the grant application submitted to FEMA.
Congratulations to the Chris's.
Thank you. Last on the agenda, Chris, if we could go to the dashboard, it's important to share with the board an update on vaccination. Frankly, you can see all the red in Michigan represents areas we really haven't touched with vaccination in Michigan. You can see about 2 million doses have been distributed in Michigan. And then if we click on the local area, we can see we've done, depending upon which dashboard you look at, 7,000 to 11,000 doses in Allegan County. There's 2 different numbers. Haven't figured that out yet, but there's got to be an answer. Here's the big thing for you to share with: available vaccine is problematic. The magnitude of vaccinating the people in the 1B category, the older people, is very challenging. So Allegan continues to do the best they can. Saturday, we did about 540 vaccinations. Friday, I think we did 700. So we will continue to the extent possible to immunize Allegan County. Just kind of an update as
Chief,
far as an overall view of Allegan versus Michigan.
Go ahead,
Is this all,
Dan?
is,
Chief,
Sure.
Yes,
Does-
yes, sir.
is that data just the public immunizations, or does that include people in the county who may have gotten their vaccination in Holland or Spectrum or any of a number of other places?
So if they were vaccinated in Ottawa, it's accrued to Ottawa. It's only shots we actually administered. So there are
Correct.
people that have been vaccinated in Allegan that went somewhere else. Meyer, Spectrum.
I was gonna say, so all the Spectrum, like myself, Spectrum people would show up as Ottawa numbers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So
Are
Greg,
all these taking place in Allegan City? I mean, that's the only place they're taking place, like at the high school or whatever?
No, true, they take place a different location each day. For example, Tuesday is Fenville, Friday is Plainwell.
Oh, they've got them in Fenville?
Yes, ma'am. They just started that.
Oh,
Saturday is Wayland.
oh.
So each
Do you
day,
have any, do you know if anyone has a choice of where they go?
no choice.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
so Greg, is there any indication that we'll start vaccinating in Saugatuck or?
Yeah, that was my
That
next
was
one.
interesting. I was on an emergency management meeting on Thursday and Commissioner Chairperson Jim Story brought that up again. He wants to see something in the north. He will not micromanage the scheduling. He is just encouraging the task force to have a location to the north. That location, the logical choice would be Saugatuck High School, Middle School. It is not scheduled in March. I believe they're targeting April, but it has not been announced yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you know, since you're working this, like Fenville, do they pick people that live in that area?
Yes,
Or is it, okay,
they're,
thank you.
they're trying to. For example, when we have a surplus of vaccination doses,
Yeah.
when we have no shows, somebody got it in Spectrum or they didn't show up, they forgot. What they're doing now is if we're in Wayland, they'll reach out to somebody in Wayland.
Okay,
Plainwell, they target Wayland. So you can't capture the Saugatuck, Lake Town, Fenville area, Ganges area. Because there's so many, there's 26,000 now in the waiting in the queue. So they
I am one of them.
yeah. And then waiting, we're supposed to stop vaccinating at 4 o'clock. Well, some of us were going until 6 o'clock. We don't get home until 7:30 at night. It makes it for a long day. You can't plan anything. So they are refining this fluid process. Saturday, we had a lot of National Guard. We had a lot of vaccinators. We had 4 in each tent. We had 12 vaccinators. We can push through a lot of people. We could almost do 1,000 if we had the vaccine. We did not.
Dan?
This is not COVID related, Greg.
Yes, sir.
And maybe I should have mentioned this or volunteered this earlier on in your first earlier comments about how difficult a week or 10 days it's been for your staff. I'm aware of some of that through whatever grapevine. And I'm sure in terms of counseling and what have you for people who have seen things that no human being should ever have to see, and none of us has a defense for the emotional impact, damage, whatever that sort of thing can cause. I bring it up because the military has that kind of an issue on a regular basis, and the military has had a very difficult time, as you know or may know, getting their arms around it. And the military, particularly returning troops from overseas, have suffered alarming rates of suicide related to post-traumatic stress or whatever. And I think there may be a relationship between the military and your staff, because part of their makeup, part of what makes them good at what they do is sort of an ability to suspend that kind of an emotional response to deal with the problem at hand. And then later, when the after effects of that or reverberate within somebody, there's I know for the military, there's almost call it macho or whatever, resistance to reaching out and asking for help or just saying, just wanting to talk to somebody, anybody. So help doesn't get asked for, and therefore help doesn't get rendered. And I'm certainly no professional in this area, not even close, but I would just only hope that we do everything possible for your staff to not only make available that kind of resource, that kind of helpful resource, counseling, whatever it is, but encourage them to take advantage of it, even if they don't think they need to take advantage of it. Because the downside can be so horrific. And as I say, what your guys, or at least some of your guys have seen in the last 10 days, nobody ever wants to see, and probably none of us have ever seen and don't want to see. So your guys deserve every help and consideration and encouragement to reach out and chat about it, talk about it. Enough said.
Thank you for that, Dan. And you are 100% correct. There are 3 of us that are calling our crews on a daily level, checking in with them. And we have a service that we subscribe to, confidential service. We brought it up at an in-house training meeting. We brought the whole staff in Wednesday, first time in 3 months. And the subject in the business meeting was, there is no shame in reaching out for help. Some of you may be aware this is a huge problem in the fire service right now. As a member of the state of the Michigan Firefighter Training Council, one of 7 members, this has become such an issue. We had to direct funds that were returned to the state for behavior and mental health for the fire service of what's happening. We've got to get a grip on this in the Michigan Fire Service. We are starting to see the nature of the calls is such that it's creeping into our department, into Allegan County. And this is constantly on my mind and my command staff, because we're not immune to this. So we continue to reach out to people. You got to share information. You got to talk about this. And Chris is part of this as well. Chris, go ahead and just share what you're putting up on screen, please.
The Yellow Rose campaign is an effort by the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs. And as this is just a copy of their challenge coin, was the first thing I could find. But essentially it's an organization, or part of an organization, that is derived in saving those who save others. So it's about, the Yellow Rose is about breaking down the stigmatism that, we're not invincible, and it is okay to ask for help. And it's better to talk about it than to end up in a mental health crisis of our own. So that's what, a lot of chiefs that we know in Muskegon County are a big part of it. And we're working our way into Allegan County to bring this, and very much doing our best to not only do it in our 4 walls of this station, but outside into Allegan County, that it is okay to ask for help, and every one of us will need it someday. So.
Thank you,
But
Chris.
thank you, Dan, for your support too. That it's, that's the best. All we can do is watch out for one another.
It's a yin and a yang. It's one of those weird things. In the military, you are incentivized and trained and whatever to suspend your emotions and act. And I think in many cases the fire service is similar. At the moment, you do what needs to be done. And historically, I think the macho component of that has always been, yeah, and I can take it, and nobody can. It's a human fragility that relates to seeing stuff nobody should ever have to see, and nobody has emotional and mental defenses for it. So if you suppress it, you can only suppress it for a period of time. And as you say, Chris, it comes back with a vengeance, and then it can't be controlled, and the results are just awful. So I didn't know about the yellow rose thing. That's true.
Thank you for that, Dan.
Okay. With that being said, Greg and I have discussed this many times, and hopefully we're paying attention to our crew, and I think we are. So moving on, are you finished, Greg?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, moving on, we'll go to unfinished business. The IFC BOA decision and BOA fees. Greg, do you want to start this?
Yes, I'll speak on behalf of Aaron Miller, who had a conflict with another scheduled meeting. So the International Fire Code of Appeals met. The application of the Bowdishes filed an appeal against the fire code. The conclusion or the decision of the Fire Board of Appeals was to deny the appeal, that the fire code official, me, had followed the code and interpreted the code correctly. It was a unanimous decision. So just wanted to share that with you. I guess at some time when we meet with the Board of Appeals, I wanted to share with the board that I have to question the Board of Appeals fee basis in this situation because it was very crystal clear this was a development. The appeal was filed as a single family dwelling, and subsequently there were a lot of fees that were not absorbed by the appellant. So I'll bring that up at the next Board of Appeals meeting when we approve minutes.
Chris, this might be a good time to mention that we need to schedule a Board of Appeals meeting to okay the,
Draft minutes.
yes, to,
Would it
So
be
if
better,
we-
would you like me to just circulate out a couple dates to the three of you tomorrow? And that way we can get Aaron Miller as well, or would
right,
you have
yeah, I
something in
think
mind?
that's a good idea.
Okay,
And we can
I will do
probably
that in the morning.
discuss this fee thing at that meeting as well.
Jane, there is another meeting scheduled? I'm sorry.
No, there
Well-
isn't one at this point. We just want to okay the minutes for the Board of Appeals
Oh, okay, thank you.
because they probably will be subpoenaed at some point.
Okay.
Okie dokie, moving on to new business. Equipment disposal request.
I will provide an introduction and then defer this to Chris Manos. So we have some tools that were purchased that have hoses connected to it. We've gone to battery operated tools. So we felt compelled to sell the tools. Our dealer, Rescue Resources, approached me with a potential buyer. This is the second time they approached me. And I gave them some pricing. They were approached to buy a new set of tools, about, $26,000 to $30,000, depending upon exactly which model tools they had. So they recommended to a neighboring department over ISIL, why don't you look at Saugatuck's used tools? They are a great value. That's how it happened. So then Chris and I got together and Chris helped the chief. Chris, I'll refer to you from here.
Well, I've just been working with the chief on a draft agreement because the problem is their new fiscal year doesn't start until April 1st. Currently the tools were tested last September by us and are sitting in the back barn in storage. So they're going to continue to collect dust for another 2 months. I went to chief with the idea and he said we could bring it to the board. That I'm like, what if we can come up with some kind of an agreement? Why don't we let the tools get on their rescue truck now, because it is a car accident season, and then accept the final payment come April when they hit their new fiscal year as a possibility, because then they may have the potential to save a life in the next few months versus collecting dust in our storage, and they're not doing us any good where they are either. So that was where we brought this disposal request to you. Does that sound right?
Yes, and just to remind the board, we have an equipment disposal policy that requires board approval. I have to seek board approval on anything that's valued over $1,000. This is why we brought it before the board.
Shouldn't we put in that motion about $1,000 down and be paid by April 1st?
That would be in the agreement that the chief has their chief
Oh,
has
all right.
drafted, or their township.
Okay.
And that's why we kind of wanted to leave it a little more vague for us to work out the details, if you guys are okay with that.
Okay,
But that we would still get the total of 19,000.
okay. Okay, well, I'll make a motion to authorize fire district staff to execute an agreement with Overijssel Township to sell the Genesis hose extrication tool set, including the power unit, cutters, spreaders, ram hoses, and to accept no less than $19,000 for its sale.
Second.
We have a motion by Pull and a second by Fox. Is there any discussion? Nobody?
Sounds like a hell of a deal to me.
Well, it sounds like a really good thing to me if they're just sitting
Yeah.
collecting dust. Why not?
Yeah, might as well let somebody else get some use out of it.
So with that being said, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pullen,
Yes,
Fox,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
and Miller is still absent. That passes 6-0, ma'am.
Thank you. And welcome to the meeting, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
How you doing? Sorry, I was distracted. I forgot about the meeting.
I
Oh,
see.
Were you at the beach?
I was at the pool.
In Florida. All right. Moving on, Allegan County groundwater study memo.
I can tackle that, Jane.
Thank you.
So you have in your packet a Elgin County groundwater study that would be of interest to the fire board. We were advised of this, being members of the Wellhead Protection Committee with Cal Lake
Are
Sewer
we all
Water.
frozen or just?
I'm sorry? So we were made aware of this study requested by Elgin County Board of Commissioners that was concerned about the aquifer. And Ottawa has experienced some problems. And there were some indicators, and I wanted to see how Elgin County was looking as far as an aquifer for wells. I also spoke with one of the commissioners today to get some background information on it. So the takeaway, the key findings were we do not have the same problems as Ottawa at this time. What we do have are indicators, similar concerns that were mirrored in Ottawa, like elevated nitrate levels and elevated chloride levels. So it's interesting to know the volume of wells that are in Elgin County. I'll just summarize. In 2000, we had 631 wells in Elgin County. As of August 2020, there's over 15,000 wells. Is there an impact on the aquifer? Should we be concerned about that? Municipal water, we keep putting in wells. So from our perspective, it's nice to share, does it have any influence on what we do? And the report is clear that it says, and you can see it on the first paragraph, it's noted that if a municipality wants to expand and they want to develop, they might want to expand the water supply. That's the recommendation. So the volume of this 2,300% increase in wells that have been put in has become a concern from the perspective that they have some underground tanks. And I think I was told today there's 162 tanks of various contents that are leaking. And what we don't end up with is more contamination like we had off of Old Allegan Road and 63rd Street. So there are reasons to pay attention and support consideration to extension of municipal water, because the volume of construction going on, is the aquifer going to support that, sustain that? I can remember years ago, we had a drought over a couple of years where our area was ordered to stop irrigating. We had drained down the aquifer so low. I'm on a well. Something the board should know about, where the summary of the groundwater survey says expanding the municipal water if development is important, something for the board to know. And we provided a synopsis of that report, and there'll be more coming out of that report. For example, their dashboard they're going to set up will show an area that's potential for development, and it's going to have a layer of mapping on there that shows some areas that you may not want to put wells in, some areas that it's perfectly okay to put wells in. To my knowledge, this is the first time the county's ever had anything like this. So there's going to be more to come on this and more to share. Any questions?
Yeah, I got quite a few, actually. I don't know how to put this lightly, but why is the fire department getting involved with the wells of this township when we have 1,000 other things to do? And we're not getting paid for this. Wouldn't this be more apt for the, our water district to do this kind of stuff?
It's a fair question, Eric. For the Kalamazoo Lake Sewer and Water Authority to qualify for grants, which is funding a lot of things, it's a requirement the fire department is involved. So when I became chief, that was carried over to me, and either myself or in this case, Lieutenant Bernardi, as a member of the Wellhead Committee with Fleece and Vandenbrink, members of Douglas and members of Saugatuck Township and the city. We are all part of that. I do not believe, to my knowledge, we can be, if we leave it, they lose their grant possibilities. Because we're responsible for, if we have a
Are
spill,
we getting compensated for the time that we're putting into this?
no.
I
We
bet,
are,
I bet Fleece and Vandenbrink is. The other question I had is, what's the difference if a municipality puts in a well to service a development or individuals doing it? Isn't that kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul? I mean, I don't want to get too far into this, but just from a 20,000 foot, view here, I have a lot of questions because number one, I was kind of surprised that the fire district is involved in this at all. And, without digging deeper into this, understanding, if a municipality puts in a well or an individual. So I'm a little confused at that.
that's a good question, Eric. I don't have all the answers on that, other than I was told that rather than putting in 15 wells with the potential for any contamination from those wells, that you're better off, rather than having 15 5-inch wells, you're better off with one 12-inch municipal well, because the volume of water you can flow and the rate you can flow it exceeds anything that any residential system can handle. That the benefits outweighed having all these individual wells. That municipal systems were a more efficient and practical way of servicing a community if they had to put wells in. There might be someday where they've got to go to Lake Michigan. There won't be wells. So that was what.
It kind of makes sense with what's going on at the Van Horn property. with a municipal well right around the corner instead of having, 14 different wells down there to be part of a municipality system. I get it. I just, I'm sure there's a lot more to this than what we're looking at.
Right. I guess this is just kind of the planning and just an awareness for the fire board to know that the Board of Commissioners had reason to suspect what's going to happen, what do we need to do? And they wanted to get ahead of the game because the aquifer is being a concern when you have 2,300% increase with everybody just popping wells and everywhere. And then you've got, in some communities, water main. So I guess the people got to decide, what do you want? What do you
Is
want
it
to do?
really then an issue for the 3 jurisdictions to deal with more than the fire district?
Yep, but we're involved in the level of wellhead protection as far as we're aware of those wellhead areas so that we have a spill, which we have had. We have to make sure it's cleaned up, notify Cal Lake, and make sure it's cleaned up so there's no contamination of these wells. If we ruin the aquifer, we're going to end up with what we've got at 63rd and Old Allegan Road with millions of dollars worth of hydrant infrastructure because something contaminated the aquifer.
No, I completely get it, and I get both protecting the aquifer and not overly using the aquifer in an unplanned and uncontrolled sort of way. Maybe this relates to what Eric just said, but it just seems to me that that's the province of ordinances in the township and in both cities to execute that and enforce it. I'd hate to see, as challenging as boards of appeals and all the rest of that, I'd hate to see us get into an area where we're getting called on rulings on that sort of an issue when, as I say, I think it rightly belongs on the jurisdictions that control the 3 areas.
Well, you'd think it would be part of a long-range plan that Cal Lake has with the municipalities, if there is such a thing. A 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 30-year plan. I don't know if there is anything on the books or if we're just flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, I don't know, Eric. I can't answer that.
Maybe the 3 jurisdictions can ask that question of their Kalamazoo Lake Authority representatives and get something resembling an answer.
I was informed about the groundwater study from the Douglas city manager. That's who shared it with me.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Let's move on to the wage study. I'm going to turn this over to Dan Fox. He's really been spearheading this. So take it away, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane. I'll try and make this brief. You'll remember the last meeting, the board formed a small group to take a look, and the specific challenge was addressing the chief's salary adjustment and sort of salary review that should have been done, and we kind of lost track of it with COVID and everything else middle of last year, in any case. And we have a recommendation on that adjustment. But before I get to that, let me take you a little bit through what we did and kind of what we'd like to do or suggest we do as a board or a subcommittee of the board going forward. We met twice. That's Jane, myself, Scott, and had Peter's help on both occasions to discuss all this. Reviewed a lot of salary information from a lot of jurisdictions, some of the data from MML, some of the data from elsewhere. Suffice it to say, finding really good comparables, really good apples to apples comparisons is challenging, to say the least. There are so many variables. It's just, I could go into what those variables are. You probably know them already, but so that was a challenging issue. We trying to get help with that. We contacted several actually outside firms to try and get guidance, try and get even potentially a consultant's help with it and whatever. And we did get, I think, some good advice. Again, there's not a lot of, take this report and you can kind of go from this report, or, scale up from this report, or what have you. Maybe most important, we realized that as a board, we probably all have a better understanding and a better overall view of costs and budgeting and planning costs related to equipment than we do related to human resources costs for the department. And the number, I believe, is 58% of our budget is devoted to human resources costs. So what we suggest and thought we ought to be doing going forward is, with this group or a version of this group, ideally with the addition of somebody perhaps from the command staff, someone within the department, from the command staff, is to try and develop a management tool for the board that gives us, if you will, a dashboard look, or maybe a little deeper than dashboard look, at the total human resources array for the district. We felt we're deficient in not knowing that, and we felt it's hard to, part of our fiduciary responsibility, just as we approve equipment purchases and like today's equipment sales, we should have a better understanding on human resources costs. So our recommendation in that area is to augment the current group, probably replace, Jane feels like it's more appropriate, and I tend to agree with her, that she drop off of the group. Maybe Eric, I don't know, whoever wants to come on to the group. We add someone from the command staff, someone who has the ability to help get information from not all the departments in the state, but some of the ones close to us that are probably at least the best points of comparison. And that we try and create, and this is, believe me, this is, as they say, it's cast in nothing but the wettest of concrete. But the thought was, if you had a spreadsheet, and I'm going to read now, that imagine these are the elements of the spreadsheet, where we had each authorized employee position by title and general responsibilities on one line. A line beneath it, for example, the desired or required certifications or qualifications for each of those positions just identified. A salary range that this group can divine by, with the help of either other departments, whomever, that it's a competitive salary range for each of those positions. A list of the benefits and or perks that are offered in each of those positions. The name of the current employee filling that position, including that individual's date hired, their experience, their certifications, and so forth. And the current salary of the current employee with most recent increase and time in service or whatever. For instance, that's all for instance. But having such a tool, and I quite honestly, we've talked among ourselves, we think much of that data already exists in different places or in different reports or in different files, but the attempt here would be to bring it together so that the board can look at one, maybe long horizontal spreadsheet and see where we stand, positions filled, positions not filled, where salaries have begun to move out of lines, where we're lacking certifications, where we perhaps are over-certified or under-certified, whatever, all of that in one spot. So that is one of the two recommendations of the group, that we, as I say, continue the group, and hopefully this is not a project that consumes a gazillion hours, because none of us has that time, but that the group continues to try and begin to assemble the information that would make up that human resources dashboard, or whatever you want to call it. So that's one. And as I say, in our opinion, we need to replace Jane and on the small group, because we can only have 3 board members before it becomes a quorum. And we'd like to get the commitment of command staff or whomever from the district to join that and be part of that group, with Peter again as an advisor to us.
Okay,
Sorry.
Dan, I would like to, excuse me just a minute. So I would like to drop off this committee. I gave this a crack in 2018. I can see fresh eyes on it. Eric, you've always shown an interest in this. So I would like you to replace me on that committee. And then I'll just keep track of the committee to make sure we're on keel and we know where we're going with this. I'd like Peter to stay on the committee, and then, maybe an outside person from the community. And I would like Greg not to be on this committee. I think he has enough to do. As well as Chris Mantles, perhaps Chris Bernardi. We would have to talk to the chief about who he wants to see on this committee. But I think as we looked at all of this, it's really hard to get an apples to apples on fire districts. We've gone to some of the top people in the state. They don't even want to look at us. They just see it as this, there's no way you can compare apples to apples. So I'd like some fresh eyes on this. So Eric, if you would take my place, I would appreciate that.
I will, if you'd like me to.
Thank you. And then we'll move forward with this and see if we can't come up. We have to come up with salary ranges and that kind of thing. We were long overdue for this. We gave it a shot in 2018, and I don't think it ever quite got done, although there is a pretty good start. So.
And I think I have most of that data from 2018, Jane, that was salary ranges for most of those positions from around West Michigan, as well as even further east to Lansing and north to Traverse City.
Right. I have some of that too, Chris.
Okay.
But anything anybody has will be helpful. So
Dan, while you're having a problem, this is a unique area. And when I was at the Sewer and Water Authority, I used to make phone calls after phone calls trying to do the same kind of thing. And it was very difficult finding another entity that fit our entity. So I see you're in the same position.
Well, maybe I didn't want to get drawn this far into it, but I think one of the best pieces of advice we got from apparently a well-respected consultant. And by the way, this was not, we talked to Frank Walsh that, was involved in the Saugatuck. We talked to a bunch of people. This came from someone else, a municipal consulting firm. And he was the one who admitted very quickly that because of the number of variables, the composition of paid on call, volunteers, amount of equipment, number of firehouses, on and on and on, he said the comparisons are almost fated to be flawed. So what he suggested was, and we thought this would be a logical thing, particularly with district help to get, was he said, try and understand as best you can what it would cost you to replace X position, which begs, much like Chris just said, a look at departments generally in our immediate area as a comparative base, so that if we lose some, with the point being, we don't want to end up with a disparity where pick a graph cap or however the hell you pronounce that, is, paying 60% more for a like position. We want to avoid that kind of situation. Doesn't mean you meet everything they do, but you don't want the gaps to get out of line. So that's part of the trying to find that range is less a range of, too far across Michigan, because people here tend to not, move to Saginaw or wherever the hell. So we'd look closer in. And we thought, quite honestly, without dumping on whomever the district representative would be, but getting that information can be easier for a professional fire person than it is for moi or.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I did say there is at the end of this part of this discussion, I do have a motion regarding the chief's salary, so, but feel free between now and then.
So is there any other discussion? Okay, well, why don't you move on with your motion, Dan?
Okay, again, as best we could, looking at what we had, the group reached consensus on a recommendation for a 3% base compensation increase for Greg, effective as quick as we can, which is would literally be as of this meeting. So that motion would be, the sample motion would be, move that the fire chief's base salary be increased by 3% effective the date of this meeting, February 15, 2021.
I'll second that.
Well, I don't think I can make that. I don't think I should be the one that makes
Sorry.
the motion.
Sorry, I thought you were making the motion.
No, that's the
Sorry.
sample motion.
Well, okay, I'll make the motion that Dan just presented to us.
Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion by Pullen and a second by Phelps to raise the chief's salary by 3% effective today. Is there any more discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pullen,
Yes,
Phelps,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes,
and Verplank.
Yes.
I think that's everyone, right?
Okay.
6-0 passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. New business D, a subpoena.
I just wanted to bring the board up to date in case this was missed. We have been served with a subpoena in order to appear or produce a number of documents related to a single-family dwelling and a project in township. It was submitted February 5th. We have until Monday to respond to this.
This is the Board of Appeals subject property?
Yes.
Thanks.
do we need to make a motion on this or
Nope,
this is just information?
correct.
Informational, true.
Okay, so any discussion on that? Anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll move on to a thank you for a chimney fire. This lady has lovely handwriting.
So this is kind of a fun thing that really inspires all of us, It's not fun getting a fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, when it's 10 degrees out and a chimney fire in a house. And we got some kind words from the homeowners from this. This was a fire in Ganges. As you know, we have automatic mutual aid with Ganges, and South Haven was there as well. So there were 3 fire departments managing the incident, and everything turned out well. And we had some very grateful homeowners. And the card is up there for your viewing. And there's even more. They felt compelled to send us a check, a donation in the form of $150, which was just extraordinary. So one of those things that went well and wanted to share with the board. Some very appreciative property owners and Ganges.
Your plan for the 150. Come on, Greg,
So,
what's your
I
plan
think
for the
this is-
150? How much beer can you buy?
You know, Dan, with the recording and everything, I'm just gonna just keep quiet.
Good idea.
Something I never learned.
Well, this just once again shows the community how well mutual aid works, how these firefighters who don't train together work together like a well-oiled machine. They all seem to know exactly what to do and who to listen to, where to go. And we do keep those fires with a very, very minute amount of damage. So thank you once again to our fine firefighters, and Greg, to you for organizing all that mutual aid that you organized several years ago.
Thank you. Thank you.
So moving on to public comment, do any of the members of our public have any comment? Don't see anybody waving their hands. Once again, thanks for attending, Ryan and Joe. This is kind of a sample of what you get once a month from the fire department. Okay, so we'll do fire board comments. Stacy, got anything?
No, I don't.
Okay, Eric,
No,
Scott.
No, not today.
Sorry we dragged you away from the pool.
That's quite all right. Had enough sun for the day.
Drew,
No, nothing, thank you.
Dan?
No, only to thank Ryan and Joe. I think that's a very good thing when the jurisdiction people are tuned in.
Interested and involved, is that what you're saying?
Pardon me?
They're interested and involved in our fire department?
Well,
Thank you.
it helps general flow of information, because otherwise we're waiting, whatever it is, another week and a half until the report goes to the city councils and whatever, and it's just better.
Right.
And it's, as you know, unusual, has been unusual.
Yes.
Good.
Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Jane,
Well, yes. Greg?
my profound thanks to the board for the 3% increase. I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. We've got the best team in Western Michigan, and I'm not going to share the 3% with them, but their thoughts are with me.
We
Thank
know,
you.
we know we've got
Thanks for
the
being
best
on.
chief in West Michigan, that's for damn sure.
Well, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Yes, we do have a hardworking chief. Okay, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
A motion by Phelps and second by Fox to adjourn. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. 5:18 PM. Phelps,
Yes.
Fox,
yes.
Pullen,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
and Verplank.
Yes.
Passes 6-0, man. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay.